Hi, and a very warm welcome to Wellbeing Mission Control. I'm Greg Parry. I'm a wellbeing specialist. And one of the areas that tends to cause a lot of discomfort for people, one of the phenomena of everyday life that can really impact on health, happiness, and well-being, is our reaction to change. In fact, most of us would much prefer to avoid change wherever possible. Maybe that's part of our evolutionary heritage because in our distant past we knew that change implied potential risk or threat, so we avoid it. And yet, even though we may not be very comfortable with change, it's really helpful for us to embrace the notion that change is the most natural thing you could possibly encounter. Change is happening all the time. Nothing stays the same, from a molecular level right up to the scale of the galaxies. And once we make this very subtle shift in our attitude, and we begin to recognize that change is entirely natural, we can grow to become a little more comfortable with the process. Now, this doesn't mean that we should just look for change for the sake of change, but there are areas where change can be very productive as a catalyst for growth, for personal development. But one of the areas where you might want to consider power and dynamics of change is within the domain of your own mind, within your own heart. And one of the particularly uncomfortable questions that I'd like you to ask yourself is to just check to see whether you're happy. Interesting, huh? Most of us sort of shrug and say, well, sort of, kind of, sometimes. And that's the kind of compromise that I'd love to encourage you to get beyond. Because in my view, at least, I think happiness is something that is almost like a binary option. You've either got it or you don't. And the space in between, I would argue, is largely inadequate, especially when you discover how powerful this incredibly positive feeling and emotion can be for your health, your well-being, for your success and creativity. It's an inner state that is so influential in helping you to become more resilient to life's challenges. But for most of us, the real challenge is understanding that we prefer to live within this cloistered environment of our views and attitudes and our beliefs, rather than challenging those attitudes to determine if they are the source of so many obstacles, if they're the original source of so many layers of resistance within our own minds, within our own hearts, against the possibility of happiness. What I'd love you to be able to do is to take just a minute or two in complete privacy. You remember, you're not going to share the answers with anybody. Just to do a quick check to see whether you're happy. Are there any areas which are not living up to your expectations? And that's another invitation for you to determine whether it's appropriate for you to maybe change the environment, change your circumstances, or perhaps it is a little bit more of a daunting challenge to look at ways you might want to change your attitude and your expectations to open up your life, to step beyond the cage of your particular set of attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions. It's really simple, not always comfortable, but when we make these little adjustments within the domain of our own hearts and minds, we suddenly discover we have much more power and influence over how we think and feel and behave, and how we interact with what's going on around us. Because I really believe that life is too precious to be wasted, locked within this bubble of fear and doubt and anxiety, and clinging desperately to what we know, even though it may not be appropriate for us. Growth involves change by its very nature. And by embracing change, often it's a very subtle shift. It's not even revolutionary. A subtle shift in attitude and behavior can lead to profound changes in the quality of your life. What do you think? If you'd like to share your observations, experiences, comments or suggestions, feel free to do so. And I always welcome your observations, and you're quite free to email me with any questions or issues you'd like to discuss. I'm Greg Parry. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I'd love to wish you the most wonderful day, and I will be back with you soon.